I'm going to go ahead and record.
I'm so sad you forgot to record me doing my first ever Zoom.
So good too. I'm sorry.
So
do it again.
if I think that I can do it effectively or authentically, that's the question. I will follow the pace of speech of the other person. If they talk fast, I'm going to talk fast. If they are from New York, I can't really talk like I'm from New York, but I'm going to take all their Southern accent out of my voice as I can, and I'm going to speak at their rapid pace. If I call and talk to someone from Alabama who speaks even perhaps slower than we do, I'm going to join them in that. And that's easy for a lot of us if we're from. But anyway, I try to match their vocabulary. If they're speaking, super proper English, I'm going to try to keep up with them on that front. If they're a little bit younger, maybe they're using some slang, I'm gonna join them in that as best I can. If we can't do this authentically, I don't even touch it. So
I want to interject here for a minute. When I did that success coaching, that was one of the things that they talked about a lot, was identifying what kind of person you're working with. If you're working with an engineer who needs factual things, then you want to work on that. If you're working with somebody who is more of an artistic person, then you might say, can you see yourself doing this? And, what does that look like to you versus somebody who's an auditory processor, when you say, does that make sense to you? And so you sort of do your vocabulary based on that. So that's a really good point, Andrew, that I think probably none of these people are really thinking about, is identifying who you have on the phone and then just sort of trying to get into their world and talk to them like them. Okay.
And this is a little bit related to what you were just saying. When I used to close appointments, I would back to what they've already told you what's important. And I would go back to that and I would say, okay, so we can meet with you Thursday at 3:30, and we're going to help you figure out how to get into that school zone according to the time frame. You said you want to be there by September, so we're going to help you figure out how to do that. It's sort of related to what she was saying. And the last thing that I have was about scripts. Linda asked me to touch on scripts. So when I first started doing scripts, of course, like everyone else, I'm thinking, how useful is this? And am I really going to use this on a phone call? The answer is yes, and the answer is no. So, and this is the way I came to consider scripts after I gained a little bit of experience. And again, I have another quote from one of my favorite professors who said, have you tried dancing while you're looking at your feet? And that's a hard thing to do because you want to engage with your dancing partner, and you want to engage maybe with the crowd, whatever. So scripts, if you can have a handful of scripts that you can memorize and know them well, basically you're really not going to repeat them, really never. But what you're doing is you're placing a lot of good information and good questions into your mind that you can later use when you need to without putting a lot of additional thought into it. And the reason why that's important is because as a client is talking to you, then you don't have to worry about what you're going to say next. You can really, really listen to them. Listening to them and having them talk and asking them pointed questions to gain good information. Again, we're back to what's important to them. Is absolutely critical. So if you have the scripts memorized, if you know a lot of good questions to ask to buyers or sellers or first-time buyers or whatever kind of client, you can really listen in to what they're saying and ask them really good questions. And it's not only are you convincing them that you really can help them, that's when you really are able to help them. You can figure out their motivations and why they're looking at real estate to begin with.
Okay, so some thoughts, Andrew, and some of the struggles that we are going through. This is great information, and I'm sorry that I didn't start recording soon enough, so people missed the very beginning, which was also very good. Let's talk about just the beginning. And actually, I think I'm going to defer this one over to Taylor real quick, just because she's had a little bit more success getting people on the phone. But so I know that the struggle that some people are having is like, I call and I showed your TikTok to two people today about don't answer the phone, please don't answer the phone, please don't answer the phone, because I think it's hysterical. But so you call and you call and you call, and it's like, oh, they didn't answer. I called, I get credit. I called, right? And then they answer the phone. And then you're not prepared. Now, if you know some of these scripts, then at least you've got some stuff to say. But I'm just curious if Taylor can share some of the things that she's done that have somehow gotten people to have a conversation with her beyond just 5 seconds.
Yeah, so I think that it's really just trying to figure out how people want to be contacted. I know that a lot of people say just call, don't ever text, don't ever leave a message, but some people really only want to text. So I've had some success. I recently started, if they weren't answering this, I would try calling, I wouldn't leave a message, and then the next day I would call, wouldn't leave a message, but then I would send a text, and I would send a text introducing myself, and I would, put my contact information, said, here's my contact information. I kind of did what Sonia did. I put my website, my email, my cell phone number, so it seems more legitimate. And I asked them when a good time to chat is. And then I've had some response that way, and people will start texting what they're looking for. But when I do get people on the phone, I say, hi, my name is, well, first of all, I ask, hey, is this so-and-so to confirm? And once they say yes, I introduce myself with eXp Realty. I explain that I see that you have been looking at some houses in Youngsville on our website. Are you currently looking to buy, or did you see anything that interested you? And then sometimes people will say, oh, I'm just looking. Other times they'll hang up on you. And then other times they'll just start sharing a ton of information before I'm even ready. But it's really just, hey, confirming who they are, and then saying, I saw that you were looking at some houses in Youngsville on our site, just so it's not like, hey, I saw you were looking, but I saw you were looking at some house on our site, and then kind of see how it goes from there. Some people want to talk, some people don't.
So would you say that you have enough of the success rate that it's exciting for you to now, the challenge, now that you've gotten some success, versus just maybe, just never getting anybody to respond and nobody's doing anything, and so you get discouraged?
Yeah, I do. And I really think for me specifically, I just have to make phone calls whenever I can, since I have two kids home with me. So I am not sitting down every day at the same time. And I think for me, I'm noticing to call different times of the day, I am getting people. It just depends on when, because everybody has a different schedule. So I am more excited. I still, when I first start in the day, I still have this, oh crap, please don't answer moments, because I need a few conversations to get flowing. Once I've had a few, I can knock the rest of them out. But until I start having some organic conversations with people, I dread the first few phone calls. But I would suggest definitely trying different times a day. I know they usually say prospect in the morning, but maybe call some people at one time and then the next day switch it around to a different time, because it really just depends on their schedules. Not everybody works 9 to 5. So that would be my suggestion.
And I did want Andrew to talk about that a little bit too, because coming into being an ISA role without having experience doing this, and particularly what he was doing, was a lot harder than what we're doing, because we're dealing with people who have just done some activity on the computer, like in the last, maybe sometimes 20 minutes or an hour, where he was sort of given the task of going through a lot of old stuff, right? Like really old stuff that had been there forever. And so I wanted him to talk a little bit about getting over the hump of, I'm just not comfortable having a conversation.
Well, for me, I just had to do it. And after a couple hundred phone calls, maybe the first day I felt like I made a lot of progress. My goal was to call 100 people in one day, which I thought was really hard, and it was hard to do. But for you guys, I mean, I would start at 10 or 20 and just build from there and just try to be consistent. But anyway, I think these skills of talking to people you don't know are developable. Some people have that natural thing, but I was really shy as a kid, but somehow now I'm really not. But So you can get to that point where you feel confident, and yep, you're going to have streaks where, or some days you just don't feel the same, or you have a streak of people that just don't want to talk to you. And you know what I would do? I would literally call one of my, like my aunt, who was always happy, and I would talk to her for 5 minutes and then I would go back to it. You just have to be, you have to jump in there and have some awkward conversations. And I mean, if I get up tomorrow and make 50 phone calls, I'm probably going to have some awkward conversations. It's going to happen to all of us. I think the reward is great enough that you just have to push through it, and you're going to get so much better as you go along. And even no matter how good you get, somebody's going to get you sometimes. Somebody's going to hurt your feelings, or somebody's going to be rude, and who cares? I mean, well, not who cares, but who cares?
I was talking to, I'm in this team leader group with the Freedom Builders. And so we are oftentimes sharing information about what's working, what's not working. And Brittany Lee shared, and I thought this was absolutely amazing, where she said her top producing agent sold 32 homes last year, and 6 of them were their sphere, which meant the other 26 homes came from paid leads. So sometimes when you're doing it, it feels like, you know, there's no way. I mean, when you get sort of no success, nobody's answering, no success, whatever, you tend to think that it's just not going to work at all, or maybe you're just not good at it. But I wanted to ask Andrew, and maybe even Taylor, as far as you called. Okay, so Janelle, I literally just put Janelle on last week. I was telling her about how everybody had 25 leads. She had 25 leads in her pond in like 2 days. And so I can see that she's, you know, sent an email here. I can see that she sent a text message here. Janelle, have you gotten any response from any of your text messages?
So you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I haven't gotten anyone who is actually really engaging with me in a positive way, as in like they're gonna be a real lead that turns out. But you know, I sent you the text messages that I had with the elderly woman this morning. That was very sweet, and I just kind of pitched the whole, you know, she's 89 and living in a home that's especially already equipped for her. She's handicapped and stuff like that, so she's not really buying or selling anytime soon. But she was very kind, and I went ahead and pitched, you know, I'd love to get any referrals to you if you have any friends or family who might be looking, you know. And I sent her a picture of my headshot, which everyone always tells me that they really love my smile and my headshot. So, you know, and she responded back to that, and she was like, "Thank you so much. Like, you're lovely." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. You're lovely." Like, you know, so that's probably
was amazing was that she was 89 and she was texting you.
She was texting so normal too. I was very surprised by that too as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
so
you know,
I guess,
I find that the older ones, especially, I do like those people though, because they are usually lonelier. You know, she was like, "Thank you for the correspondence," and I was like, "Thank you." You know, I'm sure she was just happy to talk, and you know, maybe it'll come up in her conversations with other people later today. So that's all that I can hope. But pretty much everyone else who's responded to my text messages has responded to sort of say, you know, "No thanks, not welcome," you know, just browsing. And then they don't respond to any follow-ups. They don't respond to phone calls. So.
Well, I would say that somebody who's not responding to your text is then somebody who, and this is going to be out of your comfort zone, but you're going to do it, pick up the phone and call them. And now you've sent them a text message, and now you've called them, and you're not going to leave a message right away, but maybe you're going to call them a couple times. I was watching something once before where they talked about making 3 phone calls in a row. Because when you call the first time and they don't answer, and you hang up and then you call again and they don't answer, and then you hang up and then you call again, they're likely to pick up the phone because they think it's an emergency.
Yeah.
So then at least you can qualify whether or not it's a good phone number or a bad phone number, right? And just, I mean, all you're trying to do is get these people to warm or into the pond, right? Into the pond, like you're no good. And then if they dismiss you, you have to make sure that they're like legit dismissing you and not just dismissing you because they're not ready to commit. But just like my email this morning said, you know, every buyer starts off as just a looker. I'm just looking. Oh, I was just browsing. I'm just looking. Well, that's how everybody starts before they're a homeowner. So the idea is to give them permission to just look. Absolutely help yourself, look all you want, whatever. Oh, but by the way, if you're interested, we're doing this little, first time home buyer clinic where we're going to tell you about how the process works so that when you are ready, whether it's 6 months or 9 months or 2 years, you are prepared. And so really what you're trying to do, I remember from the ISA, is you're trying to get an appointment, even if, so the fact that Janelle took that rental lead today, she got an appointment. She got in front of somebody who might have shit credit and might not be able to apply and qualify, but she might have a brother who's got his shit together, who needs a real estate agent. And when you're kind to the person who nobody wants to talk to, right, you sometimes reap the benefits of the people around them who do have their shit together. Right?
I just want to add something to that.
Sure.
So I will say I do like working with renters for that reason, because I find that a lot of the renters that I work with, even if I don't get paid out of the situation, that they're usually some of the best people to refer me later on and say, she did such a wonderful job, she didn't even get paid for it, like they just see that. And I make it clear up front too that, like, I'm doing this, I might only get $50, I might not get anything, but I'm hoping we can build a relationship where you trust me enough to tell your friends and family about me, and people respect the openness and honesty of that. And then another thing that I've also been doing is using ChatGPT for a lot of stuff to write my responses. So literally the elderly woman that I was texting today, when she responded back and she was like, oh, I'm 89, I'm not looking, all that kind of stuff, I literally took her text, put it to ChatGPT, and I said, write a response to this. And I had already put the stuff from Linda's email last night into ChatGPT, so I put it into the same thread. So ChatGPT already knew that I was talking about, are you just browsing, HomeBot, whatever, things like that. So it gave me responses to send back to her, and I could sort of change the tone of her personality to match how I wanted, knowing that it still came out in sort of a professional manner. And so I've been having fun with that, I will say.
I think that sounds very interesting. I'd never heard about it until you said it. I definitely want you to post it in the Freedom Builder, or not in the Freedom Builder, in the EXP Linda downline group or whatever, because I think other people can benefit from that. Another thing that you guys can keep in mind, because I did turn the bot off during daytime hours, because I guess I only get 80 connections. And since we got 250 leads the first month, I really want the bot to be talking to people in the evening. And I probably can tweak some of the things that she's saying right now, because I don't necessarily like everything. I feel like when somebody says they're just browsing, she's like, okay, well, if anything changes, let me know. Right. And I would probably handle that a little bit differently. But you can go into the smart plans within realty.com and look at some of their automated stuff. And you might even want to start your text message with some of the things that they're starting with. Because interestingly enough, the bot, if you notice, if you've had the bot work with any of your people before, actually does get responses. Sometimes if people don't answer the phone, you send them a text, they don't send your text, they don't answer your email. But then when Anna steps in, all of a sudden Anna's getting some action. It's like, what the hell? So I wanted to ask Andrew about persistence of phone calls. Now you had probably 3,000 people in your pond to call, but if you had selected these 20 or 30 people and you called and it got voicemail, what would be your process? Would you continue to call that person until you've given them a fair shot, or would you just say screw it and go on to the next one?
If I had 20 to less than 50 people as active leads, I would probably call them. I would not leave a voicemail until I've called them at least 8 or 10 times. I would certainly try other forms of communication, text or video text to introduce yourself. This again would be later. I would try. I mean, I'm a phone call person. I guess I'm a little bit old school compared to a lot of folks, but I would use text after 2 or 3 phone calls that aren't being answered. I'm still not going to leave a voicemail. Then I'll do a text. And then maybe after 8 to 10 phone calls, I will leave a voicemail or send them a video of myself, introducing myself. I would try that. And
I think the video is a very, very, very good idea. And I've heard this before, even with KV Core. If you came up with a video one time and didn't make it personalized, okay, but made it, instead of, you're talking to Jack or you're talking to Henrietta or whoever you're talking about, but made it generic that said, hey, thank you so much for visiting our site today. I saw you guys were browsing in the, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, even, you don't even have to be specific or whatever, then you could just automatically send that same video text or video email. I love video email. I aspire to do it. I don't do it, but I was working with a new construction agent who did it on every transaction. He was older than me, and I loved every single one because you get an opportunity to show a little bit of personality, and you become more than just, a typewritten note. And then they also get to watch it on their own time. So even though when you call them, they might not be ready to talk to you, if you send them an email and they might not look at it until 10 o'clock at night. And as soon as they open it, right, they can see you talking. So I do definitely like that. I've got some stuff set up and I'm still learning too, guys, but one of the things that I have is that I have a market watch going out. It seems to be going out for Youngsville and Knightdale more than it is going out for Durham, maybe, where I say, if somebody comes in from Youngsville, immediately send them a market update. Well, I can see that people are opening. That's why you guys will get messages from me sometime that says, hey, this person's talking to the bot, or this person's opening their email, or this person's actively looking at homes. Are we trying to talk to them? And now, instead of just saying, I heard you were on the site looking at stuff, now you're saying, hey, I saw you were looking at Elm Street in Durham. And then you've done your research ahead of time. You can say, this house is, brand new on the market. It's a great house. Would love to show it to you. What's your availability? Something like that. Okay, so you would call them. So now let's go back to the whole thing. Let's go back to their scenario. They've got 50. They're going to probably end up with 50 people in their list. Janelle's first thing is she's going to text. So she gets the thing and she says, hey, it's Janelle. And Janelle, by the way, you do not have to say you're on my team on that email because these people don't know me. So saying you're on my team when you're dealing with another agent is good. Saying you're on my team with just that is just like extra words they probably don't care about. Okay? If that makes sense. So this is Janelle with eXp Realty. Saw you were visiting the site today. Would love to help you out. Whatever you're saying, your song and dance. Okay, she sends that text message and maybe somebody says not interested, whatever, right? At that point, if they've said they're not interested, do we move them into a smart plan within realty.com that says I'm not interested, and then let the smart plan sort of send stuff? Or do we make them cold, or do we move them to the pond because they've dismissed us?
Well, I don't know how your automations work.
We have mostly non-automation. Our automations are working in the wee hours of the evening, and then whatever they pick up in the wee hours, they continue to work the entire lead forever.
Are you talking about a bot or the
Bot.
automations?
Oh, bot.
Okay, so automations are like when you go to cold or nurture, and then it's going to send them this many emails per month for 12, 6
Yeah, I
months
don't
per
think
month.
ours are doing that. I think it's just tagging it right now. It's just giving it a
Okay, so you're using tags to signal people.
right.
Okay.
We're using tags so that we can sort of keep track of what we're doing.
At a certain point, 10 phone calls, 5 emails, 3 text messages, whatever your mix is, I would put them in the pond and put some notes in so somebody else can call them.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something about, maybe they're either really not doing anything, or maybe there's just something about,
Your delivery or your timing.
you never know what kind of real estate agent they want.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so you put them in the pond, but now what about Janelle's situation where they responded and they said not interested? So what are you going to do with that? Are you going to move them to the pond? Are you going to accept that one time and I'm done? Or are you going to follow up and say, hey, I understand you're not interested right now, but would you like me to go ahead and set you up on a search so you can keep an eye on what's going on in the market? Or would you just say, hey, no, I think you have to respond to not interested for sure. And at least say, hey, no worries, we hope you enjoy, continue to enjoy looking at our site, because if they stay on our site, we can see if they keep looking.
yeah, I think I have to think about it. I think I would do, hey, I understand that you're not interested right now. That's great. Please continue to use the site. That's why it's there for you to use it. I'm going to go ahead and set you up on a search so that we can send you properties that are coming onto the market. And the reason why I'm going to do that, because I'm going to try to provoke some comment from them. Either, no, don't do it, or, okay, that's cool. Because I think if they really are not interested, they'll tell you no. And that's when you know they're probably a really no. probably
You could
really
even say something like, hey, no obligation. I'm just going to go ahead and, set you up on this search. I know it's beginning. You're just starting to look and whatever, but let me go ahead and set you up on this search. If anything catches your attention, just let me know. I'd be happy to help you.
Yeah.
And if you take the obligation out of it, because I think that's their concern, is that they don't know us, right? And here we are saying, hey, let me help you, right? But we also know that the first agent that gets in front of these people who are just starting to look is typically the agent that's going to earn the business. The first person. And so if they're on our site, then they're on Zillow and they're on Realtor. And if we can just find that house that they want to see when they want to see it and be available, then maybe we can. And Taylor, can you talk a little bit how you got this Youngsville? I know you're eating now, but about how you got this Youngsville, or no, this Zebulon guy. So Taylor has picked up a solid lead. So tell us about that, Taylor.
Yeah, so he came through actually as Youngsville. So a lot of these people coming in Youngsville are not Youngsville. I'm not sure how that's working, but I called him. He answered right away. I think it was just luck that he answered. And I just started my normal spiel about, hey, I saw you were looking at the site. Like, did you see anything that interests you? And then he gave me his whole life story. He told me exactly what he was looking for, which doesn't always happen. I wasn't really having to dig it for that much. I just said, can you tell me a little bit what you're looking for? And he named off every single line item, price point, how many bedrooms, square footage, size lot he wanted. He needed a ranch or 1.5 story. And then I asked him about if he had spoke with a lender. He goes, don't need it, cash. Perfect. And so then I called him, I set him up on a search. I noticed he never looked at his search. So I followed up with him the following day. He said he was having issues with his email and he asked me to call him back next week. So I did. I put a little note in. I called him back Monday and he said, I'm in a store right now. Can I call you back? Or, he said, call me in 30 minutes. And I was like, this dude's just not going to talk to me. But I kept sticking with it. And I called him. And sure enough, he was like, yeah, I got some. Because I texted him a few houses. That's what it was. I texted him a few houses from HomeSpotter or whatever, because his email wasn't working. And he hadn't responded to any of those. He goes, yeah, I was looking at some of those houses we drove by. And he goes, but those weren't really exactly what we were looking for. Can you pull up your list right now? And I found one that I thought was absolutely perfect for him. And he goes, you know what? We actually drove by that one last week. Could you meet us there today? So I met him there at 5 o'clock that day, showed him the property. They loved it. They were going to put an offer, but then it came back that they didn't like what was across the street from them, which was some trailers that hopefully we might be able to work around. Linda, I don't know. I'm going to talk to you about that. But either way, we're still looking. So he calls me, he hasn't got his email squared away, but I'm just sending him properties as they're coming on the market.
So that's really just adjusting to their situation, right? And so just like instead of emailing, texting, instead of texting, calling, instead whatever he needs to do. So do you have anybody else from realty.com that's not a seller lead, that's a buyer lead that has talked to you?
I actually made a phone call this morning. I was supposed to follow up with him again, but it was kind of the same situation. He came through last night. I did not get around to calling him. I called him this morning. To be honest, I thought he was going to hang up on me because he was like, who are you with? And then I told him and I asked him a little bit about what he was looking for. I was having to poke him a little bit more, but he got me the criteria. He's set up on a search. I did go ahead and send him an email with houses that I thought might be interesting to him because it's for his mom. So we're supposed to touch base later today and see how that's going to go.
Okay. And then I remember you had the lady from New York. What's going on with her?
So I have to try to get in touch with her. Her phone was off yesterday. I'm hoping she didn't block me. I don't think that she did. We're going to find out because I know Dan also spoke with her briefly. So she's still trying to get that squared away. So she actually, I need to call her today. I need to do that this afternoon. Thank you for that. But then there is another lady, actually. There is another lady, but she's not going to be ready until next year. And she actually spoke with Dan. And Dan gave she looks good, but she's not ready until next year because she's in a lease. So we're trying to see if she's willing to break that. So I really think it's just about calling them different times of the day, not the same time every day. That one specific one, she never answered my calls, but she responded right away from my text. So I think it's just, you have to try a lot of different ways to see how they want to be contacted. And once you figure out how they like to be contacted, that's how I would contact them from there on out.
So how often, like if you just had to pull a number out of your ass, would you say like 25% of the time you're getting somebody on the phone, or 25% of the time that people are responding?
Yeah, I would say about 25.
That's not
25%.
too bad.
No,
Pretty good.
it's a numbers game. I think it's very easy to get discouraged because there are some times where nobody answers and sometimes they just hang up. But I also have had somebody hang up on me and tell me they weren't interested, but try to stay positive and super enthusiastic, because he called me back 30 minutes later. He says, nope, not interested. Call me back 30 minutes later, and don't know if he's going to end up going with us. But, you know, he told me his whole life story, what he's looking for, told me that they want to sell their house, find a different house. But he called me back. He said, I hate salespeople, but you just sounded super nice. And so I'm sorry for hanging up on you, but I just have a fear of salespeople. So no matter what, even if they're rude, just try to stay as positive and, like Andrew said, put a smile on your face, because I think they can hear that smile through the phone. And I was
Absolutely.
very shocked that he called back.
That's awesome. So I touched on this briefly in my email today about, about express offers and cash offers for sellers. We're getting a good amount, at least 20. So I'd say 10% of the emails I'm getting are for sale or for cash offers for sellers. And right now, Taylor's my only express offer certified agent. But if anybody else wants to do that training, it's boring as shit. But if you get the training, then you can actually present a cash offer. And the idea with the cash offer is not necessarily that they're going to take it, because a lot of times they're very low and you have to be very desperate to take such a crappy offer when we're pretty much in a seller's market. But we're having conversations, and a lot of these people are just trying to get their value. They're not necessarily trying to get a cash offer. They're just curious, just like you might be going and checking to see the value of your house. But when they come into the system, we have their email address, their phone number, and their home address. And I would say 90% of the time, if not more, if not 100% of the time, all of that data is legit. And a lot of times they're picking up the phone, and some of the times they're interested in talking to us. Taylor's got 1, 2, 3 potential people who are talking to us, plus one guy who actually sent her out to do a cash offer, then ghosted her. I had a guy who we sent out to do a cash offer, and then she's had multiple conversations with people who we've set up on the home bot just to sort of keep in touch with them on a monthly basis. So, you know, express offers in workplace, I found it to be thoroughly boring, but you know, it does give you access. It gives you something else that you can say that you are certified to do, and it gives you another talking point with anybody that you're talking with.
Linda, in regards to those, this might be a separate conversation, but if other people are getting certified, what do you think about, because I know a lot of these people, like they just push a button and may not realize exactly what they're doing, but if we have their addresses, maybe it's something we could take a step further as like sending a handwritten note or with our business cards or something, just for another point of communication, if we've like verified that's actually their address through the taxes. Because
yeah, that's a really good idea. One of the things I've learned in the masterminds is to actually take that information, create a colored CMA via Core Present, let's say, and hand mail it to their house. And then they pull it up and they can see their CMA, and it's got our contact information. And that's a really good idea, regardless of where they are in the phase, in their journey, right? Because again, not everybody is internet savvy. Not everybody's going to open the emails. Not everybody's going to read a text. Some people are more responsive to a handwritten letter that says, hey, thanks for visiting our site. Here's a CMA for your house. I mean, I have heard of agents who do CMAs, send out like 25 CMAs a day as a farming mechanism to the different neighbors, right? And then again, you're just getting your name in front of them. I think what I'm hearing more than anything is that you have to touch them in multiple directions. And then what happens is, even though they might not be talking to you, they're seeing your name so much that you become the face of real estate to them if you just touch them enough.
I have a question.
I mean,
Yes.
everybody checks their mail. So
That's true. Okay.
I check mine and I just throw it away.
Yeah.
So what have you guys thought of saying when you call a realty.com lead? Have you talked about that? I may have missed it, but what's the consensus?
Well, so my thought is to try to be authentic. So we don't I haven't shared any, I've shared some scripts that you've sent or whatever. I don't know if I'm not enforcing a certain way of talking. I think that everybody sort of has to find their own mojo. And that's part of what this conversation was about, was how do we, what are you doing that works? What are you doing that works? What are you doing that works? What's working for you? So what were you going to say about that?
Well, I just used to try to make it really simple. And I would say, hey, this is Andrew. I'm a local real estate agent in Raleigh. And then I would say something like, the purpose for my phone call is, from there it could go to, I know you looked at this house on this street, or if it's just when we used to have Zillow leads and I used to role play with the agent. So Zillow, they would say, this is something that they would use, and you guys might want to consider this. Zillow asked me to reach out to you. We're a Zillow preferred agent in this area that you're looking at homes, and they asked me to reach out with you to see how your home search is coming along. And then that could open up to any conversation. So something to think about.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if realty.com has quite the name recognition that
doesn't,
Zillow does.
but they'll think you're talking about realtor.com, which does have the credits. If you say realty.com, they're going to think you're saying realtor.com. So that's what they're going to assume. So you could say something like that. Hey, this is Janelle. I saw that you were looking at the realty.com website, our realty.com website, and wanted to reach out to just sort of see where you are in the process on your home buying journey, whatever. I mean, I know Tiffany's got somebody right now who she picked up from Carrie who said that she's looking in the next 6 months. Tiffany, have you had any luck getting back in touch with her? Tiffany's, she is.
I have not. No,
So
I haven't.
What have you tried to do?
Nothing. I'm discouraged, honestly.
So you're afraid to
Because
call her.
she was, no, she was just, when I asked if I could keep in contact with her, she said, well, it's up to you.
Okay.
So I guess, some of the responses are kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. So I think that is permission. So I like that. Did you,
Okay.
do we know what she wants?
No, she wouldn't tell me all of that. She was really trying to get me off the phone, but I kept asking questions.
Okay.
Sounds like this person's scared of salespeople, and they don't like to say no. Well,
Mhm.
it's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a person who doesn't want to tell you no, most likely.
But that's somebody who did tell you that
Okay.
she was looking to buy a house in the next 6 months. So it's probably worth
Yeah.
calling her again, not leaving a voicemail,
Okay.
but call her a couple times if you get her on the phone and say, hey, it's Tiffany. I know we talked a month ago. Didn't want you to think I was dropping the ball. Wanted to let you know I'm thinking about you. I know you're getting ready to potentially do something in the next 3 to 6 months. It's probably not a bad idea for us to get you set up on a search. Can you give me an idea of what you're looking for? And then also the next question is, do you understand how the North Carolina offer to purchase works? Because it's changed in the last whatever years. If she's a first time home buyer, she's not going to know, and she needs to understand due diligence. And if you can confidently explain how due diligence works, then you're putting yourself on another level of providing a need, which is she needs to understand how the contract works and how due diligence works and that it's non-refundable and all that. So I oftentimes, when I get a new lead of somebody who calls me, I'm going right into hey, has anybody talked to you about the North Carolina offer to purchase and what it looks like and how it works? And 90% of the time they say, no, I have no idea. And so now I get to go into an area that I know extremely well, right? And give them a little bit without trying to do it too much, but give them like a very confident expert opinion on, or whatever coverage of what it is. And then I will move into other questions like, so I see you're looking in Cary. Is Cary the only area you're looking at? And is there a reason why you've selected Cary? Well, we already live in Cary. My daughter's in this elementary school. We got to stay in this elementary school. Perfect. Okay, so what is our budget and can I get you set up on a search and all that kind of stuff? So that's that. So we actually need to end this call. Does anybody else have anything they want to say before we end the call? Because we have another call at 5 o'clock. Natasha, do you have anything to say? How are you doing on your stuff? I know you only have like 3 or 4.
Hey, sorry, I was trying to eat something before I relieved my husband at gymnastics. I'm supposed to actually be there. But anyway, so, I had the lady that she told me that she was looking for a friend. I followed up with her again today and just stated, just with an email. And I was just like, hey, thank you for, taking my call yesterday. Would like to, I said, based on your search criteria, set up a search, for you in this MLS, blah, blah, blah. If that's okay. She hasn't responded. I said, just based on your criteria, but just to kind of keep something out there. So, and then I just had another one to come through. So I'm going to give her a call.
Cool.
I'll call one person, then send her a text as well. So maybe I shouldn't have sent the text so quickly, but I did. Haven't heard from her.
Well,
But I'll follow back up.
we're all going to try different things, and you actually have a little bit of a head start, as does Janelle a little bit, because we've been doing this for 3 weeks. And so we've just been sort of winging it. So hopefully some of the stuff that we're talking about today gives you a little bit of direction. I mean, I'm going to have Andrew, I think he did send me the sales mastery or whatever, but I really like his idea. It makes sense to me now. I mean, not talking on a script, being authentic is extremely important because people can tell if you're scripting or if you're authentic. However, I really, really do like the idea of having a few lines or a few ideas that can engage people in conversation so that when they say, I'm just looking. Let's talk about that real quick, Andrew. If you called somebody and said, hey, this is Andrew, whatever, I saw you were looking on the website and they said, I'm just looking. Now, I don't tell me Catherine's response. Tell me what your response was. Oh, that's remember. Would you like to hear more about our Just Looking program?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what would you say?
I would say great. That's awesome. That's how everybody starts. What has you interested in looking at real estate?
There you go. So just something other than, okay, no worries. Let me know. Here's my phone number. Call me when you want to do something other than just look on the internet.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Yeah. So I like it. What's got you interested in looking and what is your situation now? And sometimes they're not going to give you the time of day, but you never know when you're going to get somebody on a good day. Like Taylor's gotten a few people on a good day where they're going to actually, give you some time. And if they give you some time, maybe they're going to like you. All right. I'm going to end this call because we got to get on this other call, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.